always put yourself first. Think about what is it that you want to focus on, how to spend your time. And again, you'll hear me say this 1,000 times, but think about looking at yourself from outside in. We are our worst critic, but if we remove ourselves from the situation, we can actually come with a very even view of ourselves.
Hey, it's Nikki Llewellyn Gregory, and you're on Gut Plus Science. You're in for a fast-paced, storytelling, action item-rich leadership growth experience. I hope you make this podcast a habit. I consider it a leadership mentoring tool. Learning together makes us better together, and that is how we change the world around us. Let's get to it. Hey, it's Nikki back on Gut Plus Science with my new friend, Corina Lamb. Corina is a global leader at Mercer, a mammoth organization that makes workplaces better at being people forward. Corina has a deep passion for problem solving and building something new and seeing it through with fast and thoughtful execution. She believes in building deep relationship with HR tech communities, enabling close working relationships to develop a mutual vision and strategy to drive success together. I am so excited about this beginning of a partnership and to see where we go in the future. This is one of our first initiatives together. And Corina, I want to say welcome to the show. And we picked this topic together based on your passion and heart, advocating for yourself and how to lead this. I am so excited to dig into both parts. And there's a lot of reasons why. There's so much alignment with some projects we're working on. So we are ready to learn from you. Tell us, Corina, as you come in, this topic, advocating for yourself and how to lead this, why this topic? Why is it so important to you?
Thank you so much, Nikki. And I'm so excited to be here today. This topic is near and dear to my heart because it sets the path. Whether it's me or anyone else, it's setting the path. And some of the things that I want to talk about is setting expectations. People have expectations in life, what they want to do. But the most important the thing that people don't talk about enough is that setting the expectation also helps prepare other people around you, understand you better, understand what are your ambitions, what are your dreams, what are those milestones that you want to focus on, and where you spend your energy is incredibly important. So I'm a firm believer that where you spend your time, where you put yourself in a specific environment is incredibly important because that sets the stage for the next few steps, the next few years in your life. And it really creates that tone of where you want to go in life. So having this is incredibly important, advocating for yourself, because when you think about that, then you know how to think about the things moving forward.
Oh, this is so good. And I can't wait to dig into really what that setting expectations looks like. And I love the nugget you said, it's not just about helping ourselves. It's great to set expectations for ourselves, but those around us, it's really twofold, win-win. And where we spend our time and energy, we only have so many hours, right? And there's so much to unpack with that. And I can't wait to get to dig in. But I want to ask your employee journey. You are at this global leadership level. So you've been in the workforce for a while, obviously, to get to that place and had a lot of experiences and memories, right, that you've gone through. Tell us about your journey and really, what has made this topic come to life as something that you want to mentor others on.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give you a little bit about myself. So I spent most of my career in HR technology. I'm at a global consulting firm now. And I'm doing the thing I love most, which is HR technology and people. So those two together, I can completely nerd out on it and I can talk about it forever, but it's something that I love and I am so passionate about. Also, throughout my career, I've really focused on I've really just had huge opportunities on working with various leaders. I was able to work directly for a CEO and alongside the chairman and the advisory board of a 100,000 person organization. I've also helped shape and create the strategy for the global partner organization of over 18,000 different partners at the time, HR technology partners. And then fast forward, I was able to work for a startup. I'm also now at the global consulting firm. And, the thing that's most interesting throughout this journey is that most of the people that I work with are men. And I feel like over the years, it's become a topic that's constantly come up in how do we engage in these types of environments? Who are these individuals? And how do I be the best version of myself, whether it's in the workplace or the things that I carry outside of work, the lessons learned and so forth. And so when we think about this particular topic of advocating for yourself, this just becomes more and more of a relevant topic for me and other people that I mentor.
So great. And, to give just a little bit more color on how you come to your leadership role, like the mindset that you bring, and really, I would call it some of your favorite leadership practices. I read something on LinkedIn today that said, what if leaders came with a warning label? And when I first read it, I thought warning label like bad, but it was really warning label like prep. And so I responded to the post and I said something like, we'll always be looking for a better way and we move fast. It's like, that is how I work. I'm looking for a better way to do it and we're going to go fast, right? Warning, but for alignment, almost like expectation setting, if you will. So going with that theme, I'm curious, like your warning label on the positive, what are those favorite leadership practices and how you come to, your role and what you do for others?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to break it up into 3 and 3, if that's okay with you. 3 of it is going to be, quote unquote, more of the warning label, things that I think people should be doing, whether it's in the workplace or even in a personal life. And then 3 others, which are things that I think really help drive whether it's advocating for others, your path forward, how you think about things, but it really sets a positive momentum. So let's start with the warning labels. So the first 3 are: 1, advocate for others publicly. I think today people don't do that enough. We need to help support other people, whether it's men or women, but others in the community. We need to be able to support each other, recognize their hard work, their accomplishments. And in the day-to-day, especially when it pertains to work, not everyone is aware of what, all the details that people are working on, all the projects and the hard work that they're putting in. So it's so important to be able to recognize others publicly. The other piece is having empathy. I will stress this so many times. Empathy is kind of a lost art. I am also seeing less and less of this. I think, and it's understandable. People are in their own world. They have their own things that they're going through. But having the empathy not only helps you understand others better, but it also helps you shape how to react to a situation by having an understanding of other people, other groups of people, or even in the situation. And then the other thing that comes to mind is stay true to yourself. So this might not be a warning label per se, but I say this because depending on the environment that you're in or people that you're with, it might be tempting or even unplanned to maybe react in ways that you typically wouldn't. But I say stay true to yourself, be honest with yourself as well, and then react in a polite and nice way as much as possible. So those are my first 3.
Oh, I love those. I have an example. The other day, I've got a team issue, a challenging situation that no one wanted to be going through and was having to have a tough conversation. And to frame that, to your point of lead with empathy, I was just thinking, I think we all did this really well. I was the person that had to hit the thing on the head, and there was one person that had to apologize, and there's one person there that had to, I guess not had to apologize, did apologize. And then there's one person there that's kind of playing color with some context and all that. And I just framed it up that if we all can come to this with trying to be in each other's shoes about it. So for the person that's coming to it with the apology, which I was really grateful for, this person did not want to fail in that way. Like it was not an intentional failure. It was a big failure, but it was not an intentional thing. And I'm trying to, ride the line of like, this is unacceptable with, I know that this was not the intention and I'm trying to be in those shoes right now. And so we all came to that conversation that way with a really tough situation. And the piece when we walked away, it was like, it really wasn't that hard. I was just reminded of that this week. And I celebrated all of us as I reflected. I was like, that was good because that was really hard. So do hard better, Well, those 3 are so good that you shared. And I think you said you had now 3 3 were warning labels and then 3 were what you call.
Yeah, the things that I kind of like live by, just kind of, think through as I navigate different obstacles in life or things that just keep me going and get me excited. So the first one is never stop dreaming. I think it's so important that people think about what is it that they want to do? What are your dreams? And also the validation of the dreams. Often at times, people will have ideas, but it's so important to tell people about your dreams because then you can see people's reaction, what they think about it. They might have an idea. And, that type of response, it's where you find the people you can trust, the people that will help you along the way and really be that guiding light. The second piece is flexing the brain. So I'm a huge believer of being uncomfortable and being out of your comfort zone. So, for example, I was recently in Paris, and by the way, my French is very rusty. So I was at a work dinner with many colleagues who are non-French, but they speak fluent French. And I could have easily shied away from it, but I said, I'm going to test out my French and order off of this menu. And I did. But it's just being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's awesome. What a great example.
Yeah. And then like the last one that comes to mind is just, building your dreams with your loved one. So I always make sure my husband and I, we are in lockstep. We're building those dreams together. And, he's my biggest advocate to kind of put a full circle to this. But along the way, it's when you have people you're with who really you spend most of your life with, they are going to be your biggest advocate. And then that's when you can continue to build that dream together.
Oh, so good. So basically we just put out these like life laws, the life laws that guide Corina and how she shows up, the ways that we could put that warning label out there about how conversations might be, because this is her mindset. I like this a lot. It's the first time I've ever done it this way on a show in 7 years. And I'm like, this might be a new way. Like, let's learn who they are before we go into this a little further. So thank you for baking that out with me. I want to go now deeper into the advocating for ourselves and how to lead this. We talked about setting expectations and how it's helpful on both sides and where we spend our time and protecting that time and energy. It's really important. Love those. I want to go down this path of when we talked before, I said, I have a friend that says, own your 50. And I love it. And what she means by that is, let's talk about in the workplace. You as a team member have a large responsibility to create the meaningful work experience that Corina just illustrated. Like it didn't happen overnight. There were lots of other roles that, she had to advocate for herself. Someone didn't just say, hey, Corina, come over here. And you had to advocate and figure yourself out and do reflection and find where your energy feels great and the people you want to be around. Oh, that's complex. That's a lot. So there's a part of this own your 50 as an individual. And then on the other side, even as an individual leader or a team of leaders, right? They're the leaders that have to set the stage to help bring people along, right? Both have to be at play. But I think that so many times the leaders get the finger point too hard. Yes, we need to have great workplaces. We need to do all the things. But, when you have people that are just clocking in and, not really putting it in and they're not fully engaged and they complain about the workplace, not great advocates, that's real, right? And it's like we have to meet in the middle and really advocate for ourselves to get to the right place. At the same time, leaders are building great workplaces. So I'm just curious how you think about that.
Yes, that's a great question because that is the challenge that we face every day. And there's all these other external factors, whether it's the company policies or the people, and they'll have their own opinions. But at the end of the day, it's doing the right thing, based off of the company that you're with, but also making sure that your principles, who you are, also the overall strategy of what you're planning to do with the team really fits the overall vision of the company. And, there are certain situations where you feel maybe it doesn't seem right, follow the gut. And that's why it's gut plus science, really follow the gut. Does this make sense? One other thing I would add is common sense. That is something that I think is super, super important today. Just understanding how to navigate a situation and making those decisions based off of your gut and the common sense and the reality of what the situation would actually look like.
So for a leader listening, and let's just say an individual human listening, whether they're a leader or whatever role they're in, this person is stuck, is frustrated, is not thriving, is not like how you described your role right now. What are the reasons why that you've seen people stay stuck? And man, that dinner table conversation, it's the same complaints and it's the energy's low and I'm sleeping a lot and but this part of like what keeps us stuck from advocating for ourselves?
Yes, I see that a lot. There's a few different ways. The first is they don't know what to do next. They're not really sure. And that's why the dreaming part, I talked about that before. They're stuck because they might not have an idea of what do they want to do next. Or if they're in a situation, how could they alter that situation? And that's how the dreaming comes in, because although you're dreaming, but you're thinking about different possibilities of whether you're stuck in a spot, let's say you're in a position or you're stuck in an actual situation. Well, in the ideal world, what would that look like? How could I pivot myself out of that? And often at times when people come to me and ask for advice, I find that is the most common thing is they can't envision. They have a very hard time envisioning what is that next step. So that's one of them. The other piece is there's a lot of responsibility, right? It's a heavy world. You have family members, you have friends that you're helping out, and you're stuck because you might be in a situation, whether you're in a career where, maybe it pays well, but you can't quite leave it right away to open a new business, something that you've always wanted to do, but you have people that require your support and you can't see that next step of how do I get to that next step? So those are the two common things of not being able to envision what that next level would look like, not being able to dream, but also you have people that are relying heavily on you.
And where does fear come into this?
Fear certainly comes across fear of change, fear of what people might think. That's why the gut is so important because you have to listen to yourself. You have to follow your heart. And if you abide by being so worried about what other people think, it's going to be very difficult to get unstuck. And so I'm a huge fan of, being able to map out the different scenarios, whether you write it down on a sticky note or you put it on on a notepad and you think about what is it that you really want to do? How do you get unstuck? And what are the things that are holding you back? And fear is a common one. I find female tend to have more fear on specific decision making than maybe male sometimes. And often at times I would guide people to think about the situation quite differently, either removing yourself from the situation and really taking a look at it in a third person scenario, or depending on the situation and the fear that you feel on a situation, you might want to think about how else would I react to this if I were someone else? So really putting yourself in someone else's shoes and answering the question that way.
So good. Yes, that putting ourselves in others' shoes. They're right back to that empathy thing. And such a great example. I have an example based on I was listening to you and then it formulated this example based on your story you were sharing there. So we're working on advocating for ourselves as individuals. And then also how do we lead advocating, helping other people advocate for themselves and ripple effect that basically here. So, you gave the example of we as individuals have to have a vision for our ideal life. No one can do that for us. We have to be able to do that. However, like you said, some people can do that real naturally and others it's like, all I see is black. Like I can't see anything. And so where we say, and how to lead this, leaders can offer help to help their people that they lead, those in their lives to form that vision, right? Because anybody could be a leader. If you're good at something, you have the opportunity to share it and you're leading somebody else forward. You're becoming a mentor to them. I've always liked to say that, kids are fantastic mentors on a lot of things, right? They're doing it so well before they got messed up by the adult humans, right? And so you just look at like, you can learn from anyone and anyone can help to guide that. And I just thought what you said about, okay, taking ownership, me as an individual, I have to have a vision for my ideal life. Otherwise, where am I going? Right. You're never going to get to where you're going to go if you don't have the destination. And then those, let's call them leaders, a person that has the ability to do that, they help others because they've got that strength or that gift to share. Just curious. I was like trying to put it together in an example. I was wanting to hear your thoughts on that.
That is totally spot on.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we are just cranking out examples over here. Love this. It's so real. And I think that's where we need to go next is let's really lean into how leaders really illustrate this and some stories. Maybe you could break down, okay, leaders that help others to advocate for themselves. It looks like this. And here's some scenarios about what I've been through. So I'm just going to play a little color with you as you walk through a couple of scenarios and stories.
Sure, sure. Well, thinking about some of the examples that I came across in my own experience, and I want to be very specific because everyone's situation is a little bit different, but hopefully some of the experience that I've come across can be helpful. So definitely age. I would say most of my career, I've always been the youngest person. And it's been a lot of fun, but it's also been quite challenging because, they typically will instantly judge in a certain way. But, when we're talking about the topic of advocating for yourself, this is so important because how I was able to then help others navigate this age challenge is to be able to talk about them in a positive way. What is the hard work? What is their experience? What do they bring to the table? And eventually, similar to my own experience, once people saw the ability that I was able to bring to the table, age never became a thing or a challenge anymore. The other thing that comes to mind is culture. People come from all different types of backgrounds, and part of that culture also bleeds into if you're introverted or extroverted. And part of the reason is that how individuals interact in the workplace certainly has an influence of how they engage with other people, whether it's talking over other people. So I certainly work in a field where people talk over each other all the time, and culturally, even for myself, it's not something I typically like to do. I want to be respectful. I want to let other people finish speaking, but over time, with cultural differences. And even just the personalities, you kind of learn to find that middle ground. And so in my specific situation, over time, I've learned to speak up a little bit more. And for others, when I'm advocating for individuals in a group meeting, I spend a lot of time focusing, whether it's the body language or maybe it looks like they had something to say, and I would instantly say, is there something you would like to share? But really paying attention to others and being able to advocate others through that way. Last but not least, certainly this is always a hot topic of being a female. This one certainly came to play, especially when I was either in a boardroom. So I certainly have had more senior male individuals come to me. And because I was a female, they instantly asked me and no one else to plug in their laptop onto the projector. Or when I was pregnant, I would get comments like, oh, I guess you're not going to be useful anymore for the next, year. And it's really astonishing the types of comments. But to really focus the energy in a positive place is how do you react to it? Let's not be a victim here. And they're just speaking their mind. It might not be phrased the best way, but they're just speaking what they're thinking. But for others, when I'm advocating for them, again, I focus on what are their skill sets, what do they bring to the table, and how can they help the broader team.
So good. And I just have to say it. Please, those of you listening, watch the actions that you do. Even if you're not aware of them, here's your awareness call. Like, come on, those comments. It's like these crazy things that still happen in the workplace. It makes me sweat. But so let's just not do that. And then on the other side, I was thinking about your tip on where we spend our time and energy is so important, and we have to be protective of that. And just with the examples you were sharing, I was reflecting the greatest use of my time for myself, or one of the greatest uses of my time that I have found is the deep inner work that I have to do on me, right? Because in those boardrooms, when we are saying those comments, that is not a, oh, it just kind of came out thing, right? Like there's something there. It's like there's something there inside of us that needs to be worked through that typically will go into the ego category, which there's good ego and bad ego, right? Like, but it's how we manage that. But that's the deep inner work that if we're looking at the topic today, advocating for ourselves and how we lead others, both of those things are deep inner work stuff. It's not like, yeah, I watched the thing at work that they made us watch to be able to like get my credits. Like it is, you gotta do that, both sides. You gotta put a lot of time in. What's your thought on that?
Oh, 100%. Always put yourself first. Think about what is it that you want to focus on, how to spend your time. And again, you'll hear me say this 1,000 times, but think about looking at yourself from outside in. We are our worst critic, but if we remove ourselves from the situation, we can actually come with a very even view of ourselves. And you think about your accomplishments, all of the hard work and energy that you've put into the things that you love and are passionate about, and also a very fair way of looking at what are those areas that I need to work on. So definitely yes. So short answer is yes to your comment, but to help kind of put it into an even playing field is looking at yourself from outside in.
And if I were to summarize this conversation and what I've really taken away from you is, the examples that you've given all along, from your warnings to your, life practices to the stories that you shared and your journey of overcoming like challenges in the workplace and how it's like, however they are showing up, even if I wanted to try to like not even say anything and close my mouth, I still have to say a little something. But I'm like, the real thing is how we respond. That was your point is it's how we respond, even in the places where people choose to be disrespectful or not polite or whatever that is. It's how we choose to show up, how we allow that to get in our head or not. And that's where I'm like walking away from this saying one of the greatest things, no matter just as a human, it is the work that we do on ourselves. And I will say that this can apply as a human, but the part that I was just thinking in all of these examples, the putting us in other shoes and the empathy point that you've made a couple of times, the core for leaders is care. And if that's not there, none of this is going to work.
Absolutely. You have to have care. And everyone has a lot going on, but taking a little bit of time, not only will you help someone else feel better or help them with their personal situation, but it'll just make the world a better place.
I'm going to go deep just real quick. A friend of mine sent me a lady that she didn't even know. She sent me an obituary for a lady that was 41 years old that passed away, who in advance wrote her own obituary. And the lessons, the obituary was, she wrote her own. I was like, that's brilliant, by the way. Like, to think about it's kind of weird, but it's like, why would I want someone else writing my obituary to like say goodbye? The thing
It
in
makes a
historical.
lot of sense. I never
It
thought
does.
about it, but it makes
Okay.
sense.
But where I'm going with this is the care thing. So many times what I find is we are so busy and focused on our lives that the thing that stands in the way is like, we're not really remembering what life is about because we're so focused on us. And no one's written obituary would ever say, I wish I would have overlooked people more, right? So, hey, I mean, this is part of it. Like, life is a kind of ticking time bomb. I'm not trying to, but it is a call to action of like, you only have so much time and you can't really go back and redo it. You can get better and we can sharpen. We're not our past, but we can only lead into the future. And it's like, who do you want to be? And what is standing in the way of you showing up with care and really leading people forward?
How do you want to be remembered?
Oh, so good. Corina, I feel like we're going to do so much more together. Can we move over to this quick lightning round? So I shared with you that we just do these really quick questions. And the point is we want to learn more about you outside of like your work life, kind of. So the first thing is we always ask your favorite book of all time or favorite recent read. We ask every single guest and have for now 7 years. What is your book?
So I am a huge person on audiobooks, and As you probably know from my earlier statement, I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone. I'm being comfortable with the uncomfortable. So I recently came across this audio, well, it's really a podcast called Edith, which is based off of Woodrow Wilson's wife. And it's been really fun because I am not a fiction reader or audiobook. I focus on business, and this is completely different from what I typically do. And so for this podcast, it's Woodrow Wilson. He has a stroke, and it's basically about how his wife takes over. He doesn't tell anyone that he's had a stroke, and she acts as the very first female president.
Man, more people need to hear that story. So I'm so glad that you shared that. That's awesome. I heard from a little birdie that you hold a national championship.
Yes, yes. So back in the day, in high school, I used to play the saxophone and the flute, and I was first chair. So we traveled, we played. So for both instruments, I'm rusty now, but it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, it's so cool. And it takes a lot of work to be able to get that recognition. So I know you put the hours in for that. That's super cool. And then tell us where we can read you've authored something somewhere. What is that? Tell us more.
Yes, yes, quite a teaser. So I'm in a book. So I'm in Bill McDermott's book, which is the CEO who I used to work for of SAP. And I'll just leave it as my name is in there. Feel free to maybe buy a copy, pick up a copy, take a look. But it really talks about the journey, and the book is called Winner's Dream.
I'm writing this down as we talk. I know I'll have it recorded, but I'm like so gonna go look for this. Winner's Dream. That's so cool. And then finally, Corina, I'm sure that there are people that were very inspired by you today and might have a question for you or want to connect in the HR tech realm, partnership stuff. So what's the best way?
Yes. Find me on LinkedIn. It's Corina Lamb. So you'll be able to find me pretty easily. Or I'm always down for food. So I'm a big foodie, so we can always grab lunch. But LinkedIn will probably be easier.
Corina, you had so much wisdom in this conversation around advocating for yourself and how to lead advocating for yourself as well. I love your stories, and you have so many experiences that just made this episode full and rich. Thank you. Here's my truth you can act on from our conversation. Number one, setting expectations. It not only helps you or me setting those expectations, but it helps those around us. It creates the clear understanding to be able to move in the same direction forward and to respect each other, right? For what it is that maybe limitations or boundaries. Number two, where you spend your time and energy is incredibly important. And I love the point of spending time in reflection to make sure that where we are spending time and energy, looking at the calendar and what we're spending time on and how much energy we're giving to certain things, just being really intentional with, the time where the time and energy flows. Number three, finding your sweet spot, the seat you thrive in, is so important. And it's really an effort of both a leader and the team member. We have to do this individually, but we also look for those around us that see things in us and help us to navigate, maybe using assessments and getting feedback and coaching us to find that. It's so important to find your sweet spot. Number four, have a vision for your ideal life and share it with others. Leaders can come alongside that vision. It's important for all people to have a vision for their life and what's ideal and be able to articulate that. And I think leaders can play a huge role in helping to ask those key questions to be able to form that vision together or really coach them to be able to find that vision. And then you come alongside as a leader to be able to help live that out. Gosh, talk about workplace being meaningful when a leader can help to bring an ideal life, dreams, vision to fruition. That's, such a standout and legacy leadership right there. And finally, the last key takeaway that I jotted down is all of this is rooted in care. The core of leadership is care. We got to care. That can't be manufactured. You got to truly care. So find that, that place in your leadership journey of, the why leadership exists for you and figure out that sweet spot. And you got to care about the people and really use your strengths to be able to advance people, all with the core of caring for other humans. So good. We'll see you all next time. Thanks, Corina. We just left the world a little bit better. Now, go do something with it.